Acadiana, and welcome back to another episode of From Chains to Change. My name is Marcus Simmons, and I'm a Lafayette chapter organizer for Voice of the Experience, otherwise known as VOTE. Today we're going to have, again, as usual, a beautiful and informative episode. We're going to have two special guests. One of them will be Judge Jules Edwards, who is going to be explaining about the warrant clinic that him and VOTE have teamed up to help the community out with. First thing I would like to mention is that there is no tricks involved. VOTE is putting me personally, I am putting my reputation on the line, as well as VOTE's reputation, by encouraging you guys that there will be no arrests, there will be no incarceration to have this recall. The purpose of the recall is because there are, as I've learned today, there are thousands of people, of warrants out on people today. And the court is just trying to ease up. And luckily for us, that today, the people that are in charge of recalls for city court only, the people in charge of the recalls, the judges, are more sympathetic, they're more understanding than it was the time I had a recall on myself. And the fact that they teamed up with VOTE is a testament to their auspiciousness and just wanting to help the people out and get their situations resolved. In some cases, you can even get your situation resolved completely. Okay? Our next guest is going to be my lovely wife, Crystal Chevis, who is going to be sharing some financial literacy about, let's just say, around income taxes, first off, that I know about. How to utilize your income taxes to ease your situation, because you only get it once a year. If you guys will stay tuned, stay seated, we'll be right back after this break. Thank you, guys.
And we are back with none other than the illustrious Judge Jules Edwards.
I'm glad to be here during this Second Chance Month. We are all reminding everyone that there's lots of people who are returning citizens, returning to our communities, and we have to do everything we can to welcome them back. We help to welcome them back. And during this Second Chance Month was an opportunity to remember that and pass that information on.
Yes, yes. Second chances are important. I don't know anybody who hasn't ever needed a second chance or a third or a fourth. So we definitely want to keep a focus on Second Chance Month for people returning back to our society, or even those who are still on the inside. We want to remember those because there are some deserving men and women who need to be out here with us. And so today, Judge Edwards, I'm super excited to be talking about the upcoming warrant recall that a lot of you out there, you need to listen to this information about a warrant recall. So Judge Edwards, what is a warrant recall?
So we have, unfortunately, a lot of people who are afraid to come to court. I've been saying this for quite a while, and so I've been able to talk with Judge Shalom, Marshall Thomas, about something we can do to address that. We have to find some kind of way to have people not be so afraid to come to court. And so what we decided to do is on the 10th of May, we will have a warrant recall day. So if you have a warrant that was issued by Lafayette City Court, we will be able to come to court on that day and get that warrant recalled. We're not going to be recalling warrants from Sulphur, from Shreveport, from New Orleans, Lafayette City Court. So we have a little organized process. VOTE has agreed to help us out, And so if you need to communicate with Vote so you can get pre-cleared, so we can make sure that your warrant is for the Lafayette City Court. Because if you have a warrant from somewhere else, we don't want you to come to Lafayette City Court. We can't recall that warrant. But the warrant's from the Lafayette City Court on the 10th of May, starting 9 in the morning till 5 in the evening. We'll be able to recall those warrants.
Ooh, so with the recalls, is it that many people who have warrants that you guys have to do something like this?
Regrettably, there's thousands of people who have warrants. The difficulty is, and these are not people who are like on the movie The Fugitive, where the guy was actively running from state to state trying to avoid. No, these are folks that just at home. The court date came and they just forgot about it. You know, regularly we tell folks, when you get your court date, pull out your smartphone and put an appointment in your phone with an alarm a couple days ahead to remind yourself to come to court. Because folks just don't pay attention, they get afraid, or if they get a traffic ticket, you know, they're mad at the police officer, they ball up the ticket and throw it away. Right? And the next thing you know, there's a warrant.
Yeah.
There's a warrant. Yes. And their friends who are in the courtroom hear their name called, and then they'll go home, hey, Jimmy, look, there's a warrant. You need to go get that warrant recalled. Or see, now you come to court, then the judge is talking about holding you guilty of contempt of court. So now you have more money added on to that. And you see, people are afraid to come to court because they think they're going to jail, but we don't send people to jail because they're poor. If you can't pay the fine, we just convert that to community service. You're not going to jail because you're poor. If you don't pay attention to your court date, that's contempt of court. You could get in trouble for that.
Ooh.
Well, I'd like to convey that this time for this warrant recall, Vote is putting our reputation on the line by saying that no one is going to be arrested and going to jail.
We have a process in place. You have to come, call Vote, get in touch with Vote, and get pre-cleared so that your name will be on that list, and they'll call you back and say, yes, your name is on the list, you can come and get your warrant recalled. And that's really the floor of the service, to get the warrant recalled and you get another court date. Now, we will have prosecutors and defense attorneys there, and we may be able to resolve the whole case on that day. Depending on what the facts are in the case, may be able to resolve it that day. You can't guarantee that, but if it's a Lafayette court warrant, you didn't come to court and a warrant was issued for your arrest because you did not come to court, that warrant will be recalled. No contempt fine, nothing. The warrant will be recalled. You'll get a new court date.
And it's a city court.
City court, Lafayette City Court, Lafayette City Court. Not district court, not state court, right? Not any other city court, only Lafayette City Court. Now, see, I got to be real technical for a little bit. So sometimes when police officers have done some investigation and they learn that Sally committed a crime, they will ask a judge to issue a warrant to arrest Sally for that new crime. Those not warrants, we're not doing anything with those. It's you have been served to come to court, you failed to come to court, and a warrant was issued because you did not come to court. Those are the warrants that we're recalling. Real simple.
Now that makes a whole lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. And so Sally, Sue, and Joe know if that applies to them, they have to call me. You got to come through me to get to him and Judge Saloon to get that warrant recalled. You have to call 337-445-0233 to get pre-screened. And why is that important, Judge?
Again, we want to make sure that the warrant that we are going to address is the warrant that was issued for failing to come to court. You may have a warrant for failing to come to court, and you may also have a warrant for committing a battery. You may have a warrant for committing a robbery, right? That warrant for committing a robbery that did not result in you going to court yet, those we can't touch. But if you had a warrant for committing a battery and you were served to come to court for your arraignment, for your motion hearing, for your trial, and then you didn't come for one of those events, and the warrant was issued because you did not come to court, that's the warrant we can recall.
Yes.
Because we want to get your case moving along, right? But those folks who have never come to court, we can't help you with that. But if your warrant was issued because you did not come to court, that's the warrant we can recall. Lafayette City Court. If you did not come to Lafayette City Court, we can recall that warrant.
And it's so important, and I cannot emphasize it enough. It's so important for you to call me to get pre-screened, because what I'll do is I'll get your name, your information, and I will then turn it over to the district attorney's office, who will make sure that you're eligible to even be a part of this warrant recall, to make sure that it's within the right court, that the warrant was actually issued by Lafayette City Court, and we have to make sure that that's taken care of before May 10th. We don't need people to show up on May 10th who haven't been pre-screened, because they'll get turned around.
It might be, yes, indeed. You can only come to get your warrant recalled if you've been pre-screened, because we want to make sure that you're coming for the right kind of warrant. That's really kind of the crisis we're trying to address, the people who have warrants. But really, we want you to have a good experience, right?
Yeah.
So you take away
Yeah.
some of that fear, because on an ongoing basis, we want you to know that you can come to court, get your case resolved, and at City Court, the vast majority of the penalties are requiring you to pay fines. And people get afraid, like, I can't pay I missed my payment date. I was on the payment plan. I missed my payment date. Oh, I'm afraid I'm gonna go to jail. Come to court. We will not send you to jail because you missed a payment. We will not send you to jail because you don't have the money, which is converted to community service, right? It's when you don't come to court, that's when the problems roll up. That's when we get big problems. So if you are a person who missed court in Lafayette City, the Lafayette City Court, you missed court because of whatever fear you had, and we can recall that warrant. But first, you have to call Sway, and she'll take your information down, send it over to the district attorney's office, the city attorney's office. They will do a check, make sure that the warrant, first of all, there is a warrant out for you, and the warrant was for not coming to Lafayette City Court. They'll give that information back to Sway. She'll call you and say, yes, you come on down and take care of that warrant. We can get that warrant recalled, give you a new court date, or we may be able to get your case completely resolved on that day. So don't walk around worried about, am I gonna be stopped today? Oh, I gotta go out and make groceries, but oh no, I can't, I'm afraid. Leave that life of fear behind you. Take care of your business.
From a previous conversation on this warrant recall, I found someone who basically couldn't afford to pay the fine.
Yes.
So they were scared, but that resulted into them being too afraid to go to work,
Yeah.
to make the money to pay the fine.
Yeah.
So they just lost the job. Now
Yeah.
they definitely have no money.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to avoid by linking up with Judge Edward and trying to help the community.
And you're driving around and your tail light out, the police stop you for a bad tail light. Oh, let me see your license. They go in the back, they call, now it's a warrant. That ruin your day,
Yeah.
ruin your week.
Yeah.
You can get all that taken care of.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people that's sitting there right now that are like, oops, I do have a warrant. And probably have quit their job out of fear, like Marcus said, out of fear of that tap on the shoulder of the city marshal coming to get you for not showing up to court. This is your opportunity to be able to get that cleared up. So, like we said, you have to call to get pre-screened for this warrant recall. You have to call 337-445-0233 to get pre-screened, so we can make sure that you're in the right court, that's where your warrant is from, and things like that. We want this to run as smoothly as possible, so you're in there. You'll have the defenders, the public defenders
will be there.
who'll be there to assist you. You'll also have either Judge Edwards right here or Judge Saloon.
Yep.
These are people who want to help you get out of that system, get that cleared, vote. We want to be able to help folks around the city of Lafayette to get over this fear of going into the court system to take care of your business. We don't, like just say, we don't want to see anyone who's unable to pay fines or fees in jail. You know, we don't want to see that. That clogs the system up unnecessarily.
Right.
We want to be able to help people clear these issues up as smoothly as possible. Trust me, if we thought for 1 minute it was a trick
Right.
to get people
Right.
in there and
Right.
get arrested, we would not be signing on with this warrant recall.
That there are people who miss their pay fine date, and there's a warrant out for their arrest. And like I said, they're driving along and the police stop them, they get arrested. Now they're in jail 2 or 3 days before they get in front of a judge, right? So but they're not in jail because they didn't pay, they're in jail because they didn't come to court, right?
Explain that they couldn't.
Yes. All you do, if it's your court date, you come to court and say, Judge, I can't afford to pay the money. Okay, well, you can't afford to pay the money. Let's do something different, right? But if I can't afford to pay the money, so I don't come to court. Well, the warrant goes out for your arrest, and you minding your own business, going shopping, driving down the street, and you get arrested.
That just made me think about something, Judge, especially with people with jobs, okay? Because they're going to have to either take a few hours off from work or whatever. Would they be able to get like an excuse for
Oh yes,
work?
the clerk will let your employer know that you were in court on that day. Yes, the clerk gives you a work excuse. It's much better to take a few hours off of work
Get a few
to
days.
come and get that warrant recalled than to spend a few days in court. Because you know, when you get arrested, you don't have to get in front of a judge until 72 hours later. So that's 3 days. 3 days before you can get out, and so that's a big challenge. Don't get arrested on a mistake.
And that makes me think too about, you don't want an arrest on your record. You don't want an arrest on your record because that can prevent you from getting employment in the future. It's hard you have to get an expungement to get arrest off your record. You don't want that. It's a hassle. It costs too much. It'd be so much easier, so much simpler for you to come to this warrant recall and get this taken care of so you can avoid any arrest or anything like that. You will not go to jail for this. We are trying to help people avoid being arrested because a warrant was issued for you. So, you know, that's something else I thought about, the arrest.
A lot of people have a good deal of shame because, you know, the friends or a relative, they went to the sheriff's website and see that warrants out for your arrest, or your pictures on the marshal's program holding accountable, right? And so people are talking about you, got a warrant out for your arrest. Just get that taken care of, get it recalled. You know, just call Sway if you have a warrant out for your arrest for missing Lafayette City Court. You didn't come to Lafayette City Court and a warrant was issued for your arrest. Call Sway, give her your information. She'll contact the prosecutors to make sure that the warrant that's out for you is still active, and it's a warrant for not coming to Lafayette City Court. If it's that kind of a warrant, she'll let you know you can come on May 10th on the warrant recall day and get that warrant removed from you, and you'll be served with a new court date, but you may be able to resolve it all on that day so you won't have to come to court another time. Let's take care of your business, be assertive, go forward, take care of, be intentional about living your life. Don't let just random things happen to you. I was driving to the store and then 3 weeks later, I get back home. I was driving, just missing in action. 3 weeks later, I get back home. In 3 days, you can lose your job. In 3 days, you can lose your house. 3 days is too much time. Take a few hours. Make that phone call. Get pre-cleared. Come to Lafayette City Court on warrant recall May 10th and get that warrant recalled.
Yes. So I expect my phone to be blowing up. I'm gonna absolutely keep it on, except on the weekends and on my time off. So do call, and even if I miss your call, you can leave a voice message, and I will get back to you. So make sure you call that number on your screen, 337-445-0233. Make sure that you call to get pre-screened for this warrant recall, because we want to make sure you're in the right court, and we want to help you. We're here to help, and that's what it's all about. Is us being able to help give back to our community. And this is a major thing, because like Judge said, there are thousands of people with warrants because they didn't show up to court because they couldn't afford to pay a fine, or they thought they couldn't afford to pay a fine, and they forgot they had to be in court on a certain day. And once you didn't show up, either Judge Saloon or Judge Edwards said, put a warrant out for this person because they're not here. And so this is your opportunity to avoid arrest. That's one of the most important things, is to avoid being arrested for a warrant and getting that warrant off of you and be done with it.
We can handle your business. You can have a clean conscience. You be free. Be free. You don't want to just have a mistake and then you're in jail. You get lost in jail. We don't want any of that to happen.
No.
Come and get your warrant recalled. Warrant from Lafayette City Court for not coming to court. If that's your circumstance, call Sway. She'll confirm that that's your circumstance, let you know, yes, you can come on the warrant recall day and get your business taken care of.
And remember, having a warrant is a natural process when you don't show up to a court date. It's not like you did something extremely evil and,
Right.
that's why he says it's easy to convert that warrant into or that fine into a community service. It's not like you went and did something drastic and horrible.
Right.
Right? But the warrant, putting a warrant on you is a natural process that the judges have to go through because it's part of.
It's just regrettable. You're just inattentive, and we have to handle the case. I mean, the victims are concerned. Witnesses are taking that time to come off of work to come to the case has to move forward. You have to be found not guilty. You have to be found guilty. It's got to close. You can't have these cases stay open for months and years. You come and take care of your business.
And take care of your business. You will do for this warrant recall. Thank you so much, Judge, for dropping in.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Yes, sir. Indeed. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
Indeed.
Judge.
All right. Thank you. Have a blessed day.
All right, good evening. And as promised, we have with us today Miss Crystal Chavez Simmons, who is a relationship banker at a local banking institution. Thanks for dropping by, Crystal.
Thank you for having me.
And today, Crystal is going to be covering some financial literacy, giving us some knowledge today in regards to credit and budgeting. Those are some very tough areas, especially for people who are formerly incarcerated or been impacted by the criminal justice system. We tend to not really trust banking institutions. A lot of us don't even have bank accounts. We don't really understand credit and how that works and why that's so important. And especially budgeting, because a lot of times we get our money and we just immediately start spending. So today, Crystal is going to give us some tips on what we need to do in regards to credit and budgeting. So, Crystal, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Consuela. So as she stated, I've been in finance for a little over 5 years now and a relationship banker for the past 2. And one of the things we help a lot of customers with is budgeting and then credit as well, how to kind of leverage it. So just to get into a few things about what is credit, Does credit cost? What are the advantages and disadvantages of credit as well? Okay, so credit is essentially it's a legal agreement to receive cash, goods, or services now and pay for them in the future. Credit has been in surface circulation for a little over 100 years now, and some things to come out of that is report only negative financial information. That was in the 60s, so thankfully we don't have just that anymore. And the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which came about in 1971, is to just kind of give everyone the opportunity to use credit and know their own credit worthiness. Um, so a few years ago, a little over 10 years ago, the average credit card balance was about $6,576. Um, the average now on the news is a little bit closer to 10,000. So, and that just become because more people are eligible for credit and we're using it more. So just on a few types of credit. So we have credit cards. We have installment loans, serve credit, we have revolving credit, we have student loans, on IOU, maybe more commonly used term, and then also single payment. So I'll get into just a few of those. Credit cards are probably the most common form of credit that we think about. Again, it's just a plastic card essentially that holds our electronic information. We use this to make purchases. You can also even do cash advances on the credit cards. They're issued by whether your bank or financial institution, and they often have due dates. So when your statement is due or when your bill is due, and they will have a minimum amount as well as how much you must pay.
And there are kind of like two different types of credit cards. You have credit cards that have where you actually put the money on the card. And then there are credit cards where someone actually kind of puts up the money for you to have credit. So tell folks the difference between those two types of credit cards.
Correct, correct. So we're talking about a secure credit card or an unsecured credit card. So the difference is a secured credit card requires you to make a deposit. Often, it's usually for someone who is building credit or new to credit. The credit application or the bank may require you to put a small deposit, $50 to $100, and you will pretty much operate with that line of credit. So if they make you put $100 and your limit is $100, you will only be able to purchase $100 worth of gas or food, and you will pay that bill back, and then you can keep you swiping the card and just paying off the balance. So when it's secured, it's backed by your funds. Unsecured is kind of the next step. You do not have to make a deposit or you do not have to put up the cash to back that line of credit. And those are usually based on income and credit score and things like that. So secured cards are very good for someone who has maybe have messed up their credit in the past before and they kind of need to start over because they start you off with a lower limit and it's easier to get approved for a secured card these days.
Okay. There was another question I had wanted to ask about the two cards. Like, which one is the card where you could probably get into more debt than, you know, if you were just paying for everything for cash? I mean, because a lot of people tend to accumulate a lot of debt by running up their credit cards. So, which one is better so you can avoid accumulating so much debt?
So with the unsecured card is where you can run into accumulating a lot of debt because those usually, for one, have higher limits. And remember, those don't require a deposit. They're not backed by, essentially, they're backed by a promise to the financial institution that you are going to pay that balance down, that you're going to pay them back. Um, so the secure card would be the better way to go so that if you have fears of getting into debt or letting your borrowing power become too high to where you can't control it, then a secured card would be a better option. And the unsecured card, again, is for someone who they're confident with managing their funds. They've mastered the secured card. They don't let it kind of get away from them, make their payments on time. And so the unsecured card, those you can see larger limits. And those also are rewards cards. So a lot of times you'll see on the commercials cashback cards, say 2% on gas and groceries everywhere, 3% eating out. So you essentially get rewarded. You earn some percentage of your money back for shopping at these certain places, or everything is 1% cash back. So even if you pay groceries or buy gas, you're earning 1% cash back. So usually your unsecured cards will offer a cash back as well, and secured cards will not.
And I think I have one last question concerning credit cards. I always hear people say not to spend more than 30% of your card spending limit. What does that mean? What is that telling me? If I have um a max amount of $500 on my spending limit is $500, and 30% of that is like $100. So I shouldn't spend more than 100. Why? Why is that important to creditors? Why are they looking at how much I spend, even if I pay it back? Why is
Mhm.
that important to kind of keep down?
Right. That's a good question. And it's kind of the catch 22 of credit. It's something good to have, but you should never use it to the max, because what we call it credit utilization. So ideally, you would want to keep your balance below 30%, reporting month to month. So when they say that you can use it, you can use 100% of it. Like you stated, if you have $1,000 credit limit, and you don't want more than 30% reporting over to the next month. So because 30% is is the ballpark for this is someone who knows how to manage their debt, manage money, manage their credit, manage their lending power. If you are someone who, say, you max out your credit card at $800 of the total 1,000, and you let it roll over month to month, 80, that's telling the credit companies 80% of their available credit is being used. That's almost 100%. This person, their credit worthiness is not that advanced as what they would like to see. It's not, so they may look at this person as a risk. So
Yes,
that's
because
just under 30%. It's just a rule of thumb to use more, to use for month to month is what they would say.
yeah, because now just about everybody uses your credit score, or look into your credit history.
Mhm.
Employers use your credit score to see
Yeah,
how trustworthy a person is, or if they repay, because my mom always says, if you tell somebody you're going to pay them back, you pay them back. But if you don't, you kind of considered a liar. And so it's best, if you can't pay it back, don't use the card, but it is good to use it in little chunks and pay it back almost as soon as you possibly can. And that could possibly help with jacking your credit score up higher as well.
correct. So using it, you have to establish credit. So and that's usually what I tell my customers. Use it for things that you're already going to pay: gas, groceries, clothing, school supplies for your children, when school is coming around. If you already had a vacation planned and you already had the money saved up for that vacation, rental cars. Because you can, just like you said, you can book everything and you can pay the card off tomorrow. You don't have to wait until the statement comes to pay the bill. You can most places you can call online and pay the phone, or you can pay it through the app. You don't have to wait and let that statement come and risk the chance of paying interest on top of that, because there are penalties too when you don't pay it off, or when you don't pay it on time, or you don't pay the minimum. So just as in all different types of credit.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Okay. So, and just a few more different types of credit. More common ones are installment loans. So this is something that you may pay a set amount for a time of months. So think of like your car loan. You may have a $300 car note for 48 months, 72 months. Revolving credit is a type of credit where you don't have a fixed number of payment. That is your credit card. Your revolving credit, it pretty much revolves on a 30-day cycle. There's a limit to credit. You have a minimum monthly payment, as we spoke about, and there are finance charges. So this is one way that people unfortunately get into trouble with credit or their credit if they don't keep it up. The one number one is not paying on time and not paying the minimum due. So that is huge when keeping your credit score excellent or good, because there are different levels to credit scores as well. So those are the two largest things: paying on time, not paying the minimum payment. Okay. Then we have service credit. Again, that's like if you purchased a service, so getting maintenance on your vehicle, that can be a credit as well. Student loans are another common form of credit for someone, again, borrowing from the government or any private institution to pay to go to school. Debit cards, usually, again, they carry out what you have. But with a lot of banking institutions, anything tied to your social security number is a good indicator of credit. So if you have a checking account and you often overdraft, meaning you allow it to go into the negative, that also gets reported to your credit. Even though it's your cash money, yes, a lot of people don't realize that, but banks keep up with that. If you overdraft or if you close a bank account or if they have to close your account because you're in a negative $200-300 and you can't pay it back and it's charged off, that affects your credit. Even though you never had a line of credit with them, it's like you said earlier, if you borrowed money and you didn't pay it back because that bank paid something for you for it to be negative $200 and you didn't pay it back, so they closed your account. That can affect your credit. Okay, as a derogatory, we call it a derogatory remark. But and then there are different ways to get credit, banks, credit unions. Credit unions are usually a little easier to apply for like our students or people, like you said, just coming home and getting reacclimated. Or also ask for a credit card for students, for new to students or people who are just new to credit. Finance companies as well. And of course, you're going to have your retail stores, your Kohl's, your Targets, your Walmart. Those places also offer store cards as well. And there are several ways that you can establish credit. So opening a bank account is one. I know you spoke about that. A lot of us don't even like to, put our money in banks. We still like to operate in cash. Sometimes that can be a hindrance because certain companies don't take cash. You can't rent a vehicle without a credit card. These days, they don't, you can't even rent a vehicle with a debit card. They want you to have a credit card. Uh,
Yeah, and even hotel rooms, and a lot of times you can't get a hotel room or book certain flights or your vacation. It can interfere with things on vacation if you don't have a credit card.
definitely. And then other ways too. You mentioned it earlier. Your employer can look at your credit, so that's important. Employment history, residence, where you live. So these are all things that are on your credit report, and you want to make sure they're accurate. Utilities, utilities are another big one. In your name, light bill, cable bill, phone bill. If you don't pay those, they can also leave a derogatory remark on your credit. If especially if it's charged off, if they have to close the account and you have a negative balance. Okay. And then again, most commonly gas cards, department store cards as well. Yeah, but those are good questions. And how to maintain a good credit rating again, establish a good credit history. So again, one of the most easiest things you could probably do is that secure card. Pay the monthly balance on time. It's okay if you do have a little bit roll over month to month, but like you stated earlier, you don't want it to be more than 30% of your available limit or your utilization. Use credit cards sparingly and stay within limits. until you get to the point to where you're confident in paying it off monthly or understanding, okay, I use this to pay all my bills, which I was going to pay anyways with cash or debit card, then just make sure you're aware when you're swiping it and you can go ahead and check it. Most banks have apps, so you can go on, look on, log on, and make sure you can keep aware of your balance. And you don't have to wait till the statement date to pay them. Okay, you can pay them the next week. You can pay them when you get paid. You can pay, two payments a month if you'd like. You don't have to wait till the billing cycle to pay. And that's usually how you're going to avoid interest and also late fees. The average late fee right now for a credit card is about $34.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. That
That's
is a
a
lot.
lot
So if
for a
you're
late
if you're
fee.
one day, yes, for a late fee, if you're one day late, the average late fee, you can be late an hour. In some places they have a time. So it's like it's due by 8 p.m. Central or 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you pay an hour late, that late fee is tacked on there. Sometimes they're forgiving. Sometimes you can call customer service and say, hey, I normally pay my bill on time, but this day, unfortunately, I forgot. And they may forgive it, they may refund it, or they take it off. But even because a late payment will also show up on your credit card, your credit card history. Excuse me, your credit. And you can check your report regularly. One thing I'll mention too, there's it's called myannualcreditreport.com. Excuse me, I think it's .gov, and it's free. You get one free credit report every year from the three bureaus. So we have Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So there are going to just be careful. There are going to be websites that are going to charge you or try to charge you, but this is absolutely free. You can get it mailed to you via US mail, or you can download it to your computer, or your phone where you can print it out. So you can get a full report of all three credit bureaus because some things don't report to all bureaus. So this is something very a lot of people use is, just stay on top of your credit. You want to make sure the accounts or the credit cards or the student loans that they belong to you because some things need to be disputed. If you do have any, derogatory remarks, this is the time, and they may have a creditor may have bought them, like a crediting institution may have bought your debt. A lot of times you can talk with them, you can call them and make a plan, make a payment plan to get that to pay it down and then get it ultimately removed from your credit report. So those are some good little tidbits. There are other risks also too. I want to touch on with credit. So interest is one of them we spoke about. Usually having that balance roll over month to month for credit cards, it can increase the amount that you pay over time. Just like a home or auto loan, if you have a car loan for 3 years versus 5 years, yeah, you may have a lower car note payment, but over time, the interest, you're going to probably pay double than what you could have if you could have paid that car note, for the 3 year term versus the 5 year. So interest in as far as credit in general is how the banks, and how the financial institutions make money. A lot of times we forget they're a business. It's a for-profit business. So they're in the business of making money too.
Yeah.
You just have to you just have to outsmart them. But we live in a world where credit is necessary. You can't buy a home without credit. You can't buy a car without credit unless you're gonna buy a cash car, or you have the money saved up to build your home outright, which isn't common, especially like you said, for someone starting over. So, and identity theft as well. It's always good. A lot of credit cards will have free identity theft monitoring. Credit Journey, Credit Wise, they'll come with the credit card, and you'll get an alert every time an account is opened in your name, and it's just to make sure it's you and that no one stole your information, or no family member has your social security number and they're opening accounts in your name or putting bills in your name. But so it's just something that you have to be conscious of and just take responsibility for it.
Okay. Yeah, that's some really good advice, especially um with that identity theft. Because that seems to be a huge problem these days is identity theft. And so if um Experian or whoever, they have alerts to let you know if a card has been used. That's good. That way you can have something to challenge, or dispute charges made. Because I know someone who just recently, someone used, or made a purchase, at Amazon using his debit card,
Hmm.
and he knew it wasn't him, so he was able to dispute that and immediately locked his card so
Yeah.
that it couldn't be used any further. So that too helps, being able to have access to your card where you can lock it and be able to dispute it if
Oh
it's
yeah, lock it
it's
digitally or on the app. Yep. And so in that instance, you would prefer to use your credit card. So especially when doing online purchases or you're shopping overseas, it's safer to use your credit card because if you do have fraud, now a lot of places they're putting these skimmers on the card readers at restaurants, at gas stations. So when you tap your information or when you put your card in, they're skimming and they're getting your debit card number. So you would want to use the credit card because it's not your cash that's being impacted. It's a credit card. You see the charge in error, or maybe they charge you 3 times for gas. You just call the credit card company, dispute it, and they remove it. When it's your debit card, it takes a little bit longer because it's your cash. That's your checking account that's being interrupted. So that so oftentimes we just tell people if you have a credit card, use that for gas online, tap to pay, because it's not your money that's being frauded because you're just gonna pay it back. It's not your check. You're not your checking account where you need to pay mortgage, light bill. That flow is not being interrupted. So
that's some good information. Some real
oh
good information.
yeah, yeah. And that comes again just with the responsibilities of credit. So knowing what is the real cost of debt. Um, the big one is living beyond your means. So that's for a lot of people, we have to live within our means. And then pay as much as you can as early as you can. That's a good rule of thumb when having or any questions about credit. And then second to a cosigner. A cosigner is someone who is responsible for loan payments if the borrower fails to make them. So you have a cosigner and then you have an authorized user. There's two differences. An authorized user is someone who you have added to your credit card usually, and you give permission for them to use your credit card as well, but they are not financially responsible
Or
for
the
that
other
debt.
way around.
Yes, right, or the other way around. The primary borrower, the primary user is financially responsible. So authorized user, you see this a lot of time with parents. They'll make their children an authorized user on their credit card to help them establish credit. The being a cosigner is if you need help again establishing credit, but I'm telling the financial institution that if you can't make that payment for whatever reason, that I'm going to make it.
And we are back. I think Marcus went to sleep for a second.
Yeah. For a second, I daydreamed.
He was daydreaming, y'all, thinking about that beautiful little boy you have. Hey, love.
That's exactly where I was.
His mind stay on that boy, but I'm sure he's thinking about you too. His little spoiled, cute little self. So that show was so informative. From the Warren recall, don't forget to call me for pre-screening at 337-445-0233. You have to come through me to get to that Warren Clinic. So make sure you call me. Make sure you call me. The warrant recall will take place on May 10th, which is a Friday. And you will be able to get that excuse from the courts, from the clerk, that you had to attend court that particular day. So it's no excuses.
Well,
No excuses.
Give them the time. What time?
Well,
is
the
it?
warrant recall is going to take place from 9 to 5 on May 10th. You know, the regular court hours. You'll have two judges. You'll either have Judge Jules Edwards or you'll have Judge Saloom, and there will be the public defenders there to assist you. And like Judge Edwards said earlier, you could possibly even get the thing just taken care of, just done with. So, but you have to do the warrant recall. Now, what happens to you on May 11th? That's out of our hands. But on May 10th, we can help you get that warrant recall. So make sure you guys call me.
With no strings attached.
No strings
Remember
attached.
That. We
No
have to keep
tricks.
pointing that out.
No gimmicks. No arrest. We're trying to prevent you from getting arrested for a warrant that you probably had 2-3 years ago.
Right.
And probably quit your job, like Marcus said, probably quit your job because you was afraid of the man
Right.
tapping you on your shoulder
Right.
and hauling you off
Right.
to jail.
Right.
So
Right.
here's your opportunity. Do not pass this up. Do not pass it up because you never know if it's going to happen again. So don't pass up the opportunity for this warrant recall to help you get the warrant. Lafayette Parish only, Lafayette City only, city court. Make sure that's why you have to get pre-screened. Otherwise, don't just pop up on May 10th. You have to get pre-screened. You pop up on May 10th, they're not going to have you as a part of the warrant recall if your name isn't on the list, because a defense attorney will be assigned to your case before you get there. So y'all, please do the pre-screening, which is calling that number that you see on your screen, getting in contact with me, and me turning that information over to the district attorney to make sure that you're cleared and in the right court. And I will get back in contact with you and let you know it's a go. Show up on May 10th for that warrant recall. And also, that literacy, that financial literacy that we had going on here. We got to learn how to spend our money better, y'all.
Right.
We have to manage our money better. All that income tax money that's floating around out there, we have to learn what to do with that money.
Right. We get that once a year.
Once a year.
And the beautiful young lady that was teaching about financial literacy happens to be my beautiful wife, right? So I could tell you guys firsthand, she knows what she's talking about.
Does she? Yes.
And income taxes come around once a year. So that's when you need to use that once a year to ease up the whole rest of your year.
Yep.
Ease it up. And that's why she was giving those tips.
Yes, yes. And so our next show, we're going to kind of focus on children because a lot is going on, especially in legislation, laws or changes that are going to affect children in a huge way. We'll have some people on here talking about children, dealing with children. Vote's next monthly meeting will be held on Thursday, May 16th, 6 to 8 p.m. The location is to be determined, but just pay attention. They'll keep that, they'll post that date and location for you. And thanks for listening in, joining us today. And we hope to see you again real soon.
No surrender.
No retreat.